Um, some of you were wondering about updates to the students, and um, you're going to hear this on Saturday, your time. I'm going to go into work on Sunday, my time. And what's going to happen is that as I go into work, um, I will be told if the students have decided to do any grade appeals. Um, Today, I was in a coffee shop with my wife planning some lessons for her classes next week. And she asked me if I had paragraphs that needed corrections. I said, it so happens that I've got an essay that needs them. So I logged into my online platform for my classes to grab two paragraphs that had essays, but that had errors, but the errors are marked. The students don't have to find the errors, they just have to correct them. I've got three paragraphs where they have to find and then correct the errors. I went to the two paragraphs where the errors don't have to be located by the students. What I did was log in, and then I saw that a student had gone in the last 14 hours to look at the classes. When I looked to see which student had gone to look at the classes, it was not actually a student, it was my coordinator who logged in to view as a student. He probably did this because he was told to take a look and make sure that my setup was correct so that the students would not have an actual basis for an appeal. The reason why that is being done is because my students, as you all know, 21 of whom failed out of 23, made a determination recently. Really not even a determination, but they pretty much decided that they're going to do just about anything. They're going to claw and scrape and scratch and grasp and clutch at anything except doing the work. That's what's happening. The broken Negro and the anti-intellectual Arab are the same in many ways, jostling over who's worse in which particular way. I want you to be aware of this because we think oftentimes that we're the ones who are just not academically inclined when in fact we are. We are as academically inclined or declined as any other group of people. We think that we're not, but that's not true. Anyway, as things go, thought I would keep you abreast of that for that reason, so that you would have more and more evidence of the failure that we are not, comparatively speaking. So anyway, moving forward, moving on, you may be looking at the title and wondering, well, who's the biggest hypocrite? And I can tell you that the biggest hypocrite has told you who not to date or marry or smash. She has turned around and dated and married, and well, sometimes when she can, she is dated and married, and she usually can smash exactly who she said not to. And it turns out many times she can't even smash who she's told you not to smash. She's told you the women to not smash. She's turned around and done the same with the men. And when she has not dated or married them, it's because she could not, whereas she's told you to choose to not date or marry or smash that man's sister. That is who the biggest hypocrite B word on the planet is. She's told you that even if you get with the Afro-Latina, you're not getting with someone black enough. And she turns around and tries to get with not even the Afro-Latino man, but specifically the men who don't even like her as much, the Arab man that calls himself white, a Chinese or the Korean man, and the outright Wyatt man. Shay Sade just told us who the biggest hypocrite B word on the planet is. You now might think I'm talking about the Western black woman. No, I'm talking about specifically the Western black, so-called pro-black woman. To be more specific, she's the biggest hypocrite. She will say that she's had a change of heart if she can get a non-black man from specifically a group that looks down upon our people to make an exception for her. Then she will say it's not about color and love is blind, but if it's you, black man, you better make it about color. Because you got options. And she hates that. Shay Sade on her video showed us how many of them were saying the same thing and then jumped ship as soon as they could. Not only that, but some of you would think, well, no, it's the B-dub that's the most. And I know why you would think so, because in all honesty, Remy Ma hadn't talked all that pro-black stuff, but she's mad because Papoose moved on. And it turns out she did do the cheating that was rumored. While he took care of her child by another man while she was locked up because she was willing to crash out. She would rather crash out on her friend over a few thousand and sit in jail for a few years away from her man than to keep on making music that would have netted her in the millions, thousands of thousands, and stayed living with her man and her child. And then when she gets out, she cheats and gets mad because he moves on after enough cheating. She wanted him to stay loyal while she cheated, and then he moves on and she's ticked the uck off. It is an attitude that you deserve war. That's how she feels. I really, really wish that we didn't have to deal with this, but we do. The biggest hypocrite on the planet. Come to find out, they've been raising us. The regular B-dub is probably in the Western world, and the westernized ones on the continent too, are probably the second biggest hypocrites on the planet. But the one that talks that pro-black stuff is the biggest one. You strip that away, and you're still dealing with the second biggest hypocrite. The notion is they own you, but you don't own them. However, if you actually act as though they own you, they can't respect you, and they certainly can't love you or lust after you. So you lose either way it goes. You know what? Really, the only way to have their respect is to not be willing to deal with them and to be willing to deal with other women. They can't respect you if you get with a non-black woman, but they can't respect you if you stay in loyal trying to keep it black while they don't pick you. I've told you, you cannot teach her to not test her. You cannot teach her to respect you. You cannot teach her to look at you as a man. She can't look at you that way. I have told you that before. Now we're seeing even more so. Papoose held it down. Remy Ma couldn't respect him no matter what. If she did, she wouldn't have cheated on him. And understand this. Visually speaking, Papoose is her type. Because look at with whom she cheated. Easy to block, Captain. Visually, they fit similar descriptions. This means that if you were her type visually and you were good to her, you become not so much her type anymore. The irresponsible nothing nigger still can re-imprint her. Russell Wilson is visually Sierra's type. Oh, yeah. But does she respect him? I don't have to tell you the answer to that. It may all be an act. I don't know. But I can tell you that if she's willing to act like she don't respect him, she doesn't. She doesn't respect him. Visually her type, but he just ain't nigger enough. That's what y'all got to keep in mind. They can sit up and tell you a whole bunch of stuff. Even when they start to confess, they conveniently and intelligently leave out certain things. But you know what? When I tell you about these double standards that we need, that is the reason, because the double standards they have are not fair. They're just designed first to cheat you, then to benefit them, and in that order of priority. When they have double standards, that's it. When I give you double standards, I tell you double standards you need. It is to even things out and to balance them. You marry 2 or 3 or 4. She doesn't get to do that. See, certain things are shaking up on the trains now here in Saudi. People didn't realize this, but yeah, they're shaking up on the trains. Generally speaking, on these trains, men and women were grouped to sit separately from each other, unless they were related or married or something. But this would wound up being the case. Recently now, these women might go and they'll ask a guy who's sitting in his chair, hey, listen, can we switch seats so I can sit in? And the guys will say, I'm not getting up and moving, especially if the guy pulled his computer out already. They'd be like, I'm not moving anymore. I paid for this seat. I got comfortable. I'm settled now. So the woman's got to go find a man, trade seats with her or something. Or she can just go ahead and be willing to sit in a chair next to a guy she's not related to and doesn't know. And they just don't bother each other. These are the options now that are increasingly so. There's still many men that'll say, yeah, fine. But you got more and more men saying you can switch with someone if you want or not. Doesn't matter to me. I'm staying in my seat. You got more and more of these men starting to say this because as the women here start talking about equality as if they don't have it already. You got more and more men responding to this by saying equal rights means equal lefts. And these men here understand that feminism is not just for women. They understand feminism is against men. They believe in women having rights, but feminism is against men. They're not under any illusions about that when they talk about it. But yeah, these women here are not the biggest hypocrites in the world, though. It's not like that. Not yet. It may change, but right now, that's not the case. You gentlemen, unfortunately, have had to deal with them. Sometimes you were raised by them. And you've had to deal with this. A lot worse than I have. And you know, a lot, if in all honesty, I understand now why it is that, and shouts out to Solomeo and the continent. He reminded me of how it was that I said that some of the tens among men and the ones among men, as far as women rank men, the tens and the ones tend to have similar views of women. Because they're the ones who tend to see the most differentiation in the treatment that women give men. But so you think about it, why would both of them have a disdain for these women You don't blame women for having a type and a choice and a preference. They have a disdain because they see the hypocrisy and the lying. There's women that sit up saying, well, looks aren't really that important. If he treats me nice and then it turns out to just be about looks. That determines what you can get away with, or money. And so if you have money and not the looks, then you become the beta who's supposed to feed the kids. And if you got the looks and not the money, you're supposed to be the alpha that breeds the kids. But either way, you get used. One is just used in a less insulting way up front. And see that there's another way that this goes too, and that is that when you start looking at these young guys with this athletic talent, PJ Washington, I forgot who the other one is, and now Travis Hunter. You start looking at these guys and how easily they're taken for a ride by these O's. And you start to wonder, why is it that they can do this? It's real simple. You've got to game these men up when they're not yet men. Before puberty is when you need to game these men up, because these women can run circles around these dudes because these women are gamed up before they hit puberty. When a guy's gamed up, they're usually not. So you take men with the least athletic ability and a bunch of skill in something else that can make money, and then you take guys with the most athletic ability. Both of them are part of these women's plans, and that's why these women are doing the most to keep them in the dark the most. That's why. So PJ Washington, Travis Hunter, and others like them, young, exceptionally athletically gifted, though, are going to be kept out of the dark because, one, everybody around them is saying, focus on this training and this practice and stop worrying about anything else except that, because that's where your bread and butter is. But no one pulls them off to the side and says, listen, because you got this talent or this skill, these women are going to game you up. Let me tell you what these games are. And it would have been better if somebody pulled them off when they were young and said, you need to know what the hell these games are. Just because you're going to grow older and women are going to play whatever games they can play to get something and get away with. Just like my students are willing to do any goddamn thing for these grades except learn the skill, these ladies are willing, I'm being nice calling them that, they're willing to do anything for the money and the resources except work. So what is the next best thing? Go get it from the guys that had to do the work to get it. And the men that form the parts of these plans are the ones who are exceptionally athletically gifted and the ones who are gifted in something else that will make money and it's not athletic. In other words, dual mating strategy is dual for a reason, and either one of the two men that are involved in these plans are the ones in whom they have the biggest interest in keeping the information away, so that these men are the most easily duped and recruited into the plans. You're the bedbug. You got the genes I want. So you're going to breed. Now, that's not quite as insulting right up front, but they do understand that these guys may want their own children under their care. So they don't tell them right off the bat, I'm going to have your babies, but you ain't going to keep them. They don't do that. They don't say that was the plan from jump. That's where they're getting these guys. Give me the seed, someone else will feed, but you're not going to be there all the time. And then the other guy, whom they term to be the beta, providing the needs, well, he also has to be kept out of the game. He has to be kept out of the loop, out of the information. And if you can get one guy to do all of these things, they still are going to try to keep those guys out of the game. So in some ways, people could say that PJ and Travis were actually both guys, the breeder and the feeder, because of their income. So if that's the case, that just makes a strong argument for what I'm saying. They have even more of an interest in keeping this information away from these guys. And that's now why you see these cats that are exceptionally athletically gifted, that in the 90s, women would have just been glad to go ahead and tell what the games were, would have played no games, would have told nothing as a lie, would have just been like open books, figuratively and literally and physically. Pick a hole. Those guys now, they're being gamed up and kept away from knowledge of the game. That's why we're seeing what we're seeing. I'm not saying that Travis Hunter gets off the hook. He had Godfrey tell him what's up. This red pill information has been out there. But what I am saying is that Travis Hunter was kept away from this information for a while. I don't think it's been recently, but he was kept away from this for a while, both intentionally and circumstantially, because he was, because of what I just said. So he's still on the hook now for this information at this point, because you know what? There is Andrew Tate. And while I don't agree with him, Andrew Tate would give him more game than T.D. Jakes would. And T.D. Jakes had to wake the uck up at some point. But I would say that when you have these exceptional athletic gifts, you still have to develop and you got to show up for practice and everything else. And for him to be a scholar athlete means that he has even less time. So really, we still are accountable for one thing, and that is that we did not reach someone like him young enough. We have to hold that L. He holds the L for what he learned after that point, but we hold the L for not getting to anyone like him at a young age. This is why I said to you gentlemen before, it is war, and the way we fight this war is that we get to these young brothers with this information without letting their mothers hold us accountable to feed them. We do not take responsibility for raising them, at least not as far as the mothers are concerned, certainly not any other mother's terms, but we do give them this information. Yes, we indoctrinate them without taking the responsibility for raising them. It's not even an indoctrination. We're just telling the truth, so that they aren't tricked by anybody, including mama. Yes, mama, you got to raise them. Yes, you got to feed them. Yes, you're responsible for all that. No, you don't get to lie to them. Even if you are, mom, we catch you lying, we're going to yank the rug out from underneath you when it comes to those lies. So damn what? If we never spend a $5 bill on him or his welfare, so what? We told him the truth. Because you wouldn't. That's war, and that's fighting fairly. I hope that what I've said is a benefit. Thanks for listening. Black heart, black mind, blackout, black heterosexual non-select male power because they don't like it, and black patriarchy until extinction of Judgment Day. Thanks for flying with us again here on Jet Black Air, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us till the wings and the wheels fall off. As always, gender, justice, forever.